Hello and happy Friday. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join myself, Robert Ferringo, and my compatriot, Raphael Esparza, both of Doc Sports. Welcome to What Are the Odds? We're going to break down some NFC Divisional Odds in just a moment. Last week's show, we broke down all of the AFC Divisional Odds with some picks and predictions from us, so be sure to go back and check that out. But you would have known that already if you were already subscribed to the Doc Sports YouTube channel. So if you enjoy these videos, be sure to hit the like button, leave us a comment down there. You know, keep it positive, keep it clean, right? But like and subscribe the Doc Sports YouTube channel, and you will get free pick videos, free play videos, analysis from some of the top sports handicapping minds in the industry delivered straight to you every single day. Also, down in the description, that paragraph down there is that free 60. Be sure to click on that link. It will take you to Doc Sports, where you can use that $60, same as cash, to be used towards any handicapper for any package and basically anything you want. You want it, we got it. Like this guy right here next to me, he's not going to say anything about it, so I'll say something about it. He's got a 7-unit baseball play today. He ended the first half. He ended going into the All-Star break red hot. 5 straight winners for over plus $3,000. He's going for number 6 in a row. Good luck tonight, Raphael, and hopefully that streak will continue. But you guys out there watching, you can get that play for absolute free. I know Raphael doesn't want you to know that. He wants to get paid. But you can get that for free by taking advantage of that free 60. And last but not least, John Perry, 23, new member. Just want to say welcome to the circus. So, all right, Raphael, NFC Divisional Odds, okay? We're going to break down each one of these divisions, but the first question I want to ask you is there any of these that you're more excited about than others? Is there any that you are just very interested in?
I'm very interested in a lot of teams. Is Washington going to make a step backwards? Are we going to see a sophomore slump with Daniels? I mean, it's true. I mean, we saw C.J. Stroud. We've seen it with Caitlin Clark. It is an effect of sophomore slumps. So I'm very curious with that. Of course, I'm very curious with the Cowboys because my twin brother's a Cowboys fan, and I love to just rag on him and how bad Cowboys just do everything. So I'm excited for that. And
hold on. I don't want to rob any of the juicy stuff here. Okay, you mentioned 2 NFC East teams, so let's dive right in. Let's jump right into the NFC East. Eagles minus 145, minus 160 favorite. The Commanders plus 225, plus 240 in that range. The Cowboys at 6-1, plus 600. I've seen them plus 550 at some other books. And the Giants, the ultimate just losers. God, they're just such losers. I've seen them anywhere from plus 2,200 to plus 3,000. Did a full breakdown with the Straight Point Sports guys yesterday, by the way. I'm not sure if that's posted on the Doc's YouTube channel yet, but check out for it. Basically, I spent an hour. They're all Giants. They're both Giants fans. Just spent an hour just telling them how bad the Giants suck.
You spent an hour talking about the Giants?
Yes. Because I just wanted to rag on them for how awful they are. Just publicly shame them for being Giants fans. But the Giants are tied with the Browns for the lowest odds of any potential division winner. So if you needed another kick there, Giants fans, that's where you're at right now. You're in the same class as the Browns. Raphael, I know you've heard this number. I know you are aware of this number. It almost sounds made up, but there has not been a repeat champion in the NFC East since 2004. Over 20 years since they've had a back-to-back champion. That's almost not even possible. But it is this the year that the streak is going to be broken and the Eagles are going to go back-to-back?
It all depends if the sophomore slump continues. In every slump. If Washington, I mean, they've made some really good moves this year. I'm not saying Washington did nothing. It just, we're just going to bring our whole team back and be successful. They made some nice pickups. They're going to have to pay their number 1 wide receiver. When the quarterback and Zach Ertz is telling the company to pay our wide receiver who needs to get paid, most likely you get paid. We've seen it with Cincinnati. We've seen it with other teams when the quarterback wants the right receiver paid. Terry McGlennon? I can't think of his last name off the top of my head.
Terry McLaurin, yep, for the uninitiated. Terry McLaurin, Washington's kind of number 1 receiver. Is a little bit of a contract standout right now with management.
Yeah, if they pay him, then I could see them leapfrogging Philly. But everyone bashes Philly. Oh, Jalen Hurts ain't a top 10 quarterback.
Still.
The Eagles. I mean, the head coach should be fired. They won a Super Bowl. I mean, I don't understand the negativity when it comes to Philly. So I'm going to say yes. I think they repeat because I still think the sophomore slump is real. I think teams are going to have 16 games to watch on how to stop Jaden Daniels. So I think the Eagles, and they got the best player in football. No, it's not a guy that can't do a sit-up in Kansas City to get his dad bod out, but they have the best player and the best running back in the league. I think that's why the Eagles repeat.
Okay, so Washington, they bring in Laramie Tunsil to beef up the offensive line. They bring in Deebo Samuel. They just signed Von Miller. I feel like I'm missing someone else.
Why would you sign Von Miller? He's 30. So he's going to be 37. He's going to be one of the oldest defensive guys. I know he had what 6, 7. I don't know how many sacks he had last year.
Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
That free agency signing for Buffalo. I think that's the reason they don't have a Super Bowl right now. Is after he won it with the Rams, Buffalo signed him to that mega contract. They gave him over $30 million a year. I want to say, and he has done nothing. He did nothing. He got hurt, this, that. Well, that's what happens when you sign a pass rusher in their mid-30s, right? But that $30 to $35 million a year that Buffalo has been paying Von Miller for absolutely nothing the last few years. Think about what they could have bought with that to shore them up. I think that's one of the worst free agent signings of the last 25 years in the NFL that nobody talks about. So yeah, and I mean, Laramie Tunsil, he's a Pro Bowler, but I think he's kind of a headache because guys that good, left tackles that good, usually don't make it to 3 different teams. Okay, he is now on his 3rd team: Miami, Houston, Washington. So they let him go. And Deebo Samuel, I mean, he's always hurt. He's probably hurt right now. If he's not hurt now, he's going to be hurt tomorrow. So what are we really going to see out of the Commanders? I think I'm with you. I think that they're a regression candidate. They're basically just this year's Houston. It's the exact same situation.
100%
situation. They went out and got Diggs and Mixon and all this stuff, and they got worse. But I got to tell you, from an odds perspective, the team that I kind of like here, I think it's worth a little sprinkle. Just a little sprinkle ticket.
I agree.
Are the Dallas Cowboys? Yeah, I'll let you take it first. Why should we be a little higher on the Cowboys than people are right now?
Yeah, I mean, Dak's going to be healthy. They have some nice improvement. I think they're going to be able to run the ball a little bit more this year than they did last year. I think that's going to help the offense because you have a rushing attack, so not everyone's just going to pull back and say, okay, we're just going to guard the tight ends and the wide receivers because you can't run worth of crap. I think the defense will be a little bit better as well. And their schedule's not that bad. I'm a little bit shocked that it's still 7.5 total season wins. I checked right before you came on air. You could still get -135 at FanDuel at the total season wins at 7.5. I'm a little bit skeptic on that. I know my twin brother's not watching, so I would say yes on the sprinkle of the Dallas Cowboys to win the division.
Yeah, we're not predicting. We're not sitting here saying that the Cowboys are going to win, but from an odds perspective, and that's what we do here at What Are the Odds, from just a strictly value and numbers perspective, I think that their odds are a lot more appealing than the Eagles are at -160.
Yeah, I wouldn't play at -160.
And look, I'm with you on the Eagles. The Eagles are still an elite team, okay? But here's the problem. The Eagles 1 through 22 is probably the best in football. They're starting 11 on offense. They're starting 11 on defense. They lost all of their depth. All of their depth. You look at their 2 deep and their 3 deep. You look at their roster. If anything happens to their starters, they do not have the same caliber of players that they've had over the last 2 or 3 years to plug in. They talked about that 8-man defensive line rotation that they've had the last couple of years. They don't have that now. If anything happens to one of their 2, mammoth defensive tackles, Jordan Davis and who am I forgetting? The other Georgia boy. But if anything happens to either one of their defensive tackles, they're in trouble on the line. So the Eagles are in a little bit of a tenuous situation because of depth. But assuming they have some injury luck, they're still the class of that division. So okay,
what if Barkley goes out with an injury, or what if one of their wide receivers, Smith, gets hurt? Right. So their wide receiver depth is really, really weak.
Saquon Barkley had almost 500 touches last year, 82 touches. That's the 3rd highest in the NFL over the last 30 years. The 2 other guys that had more touches than him the next season, both their yards per carry dropped by over a yard fully. And it's not like Saquon Barkley hasn't had injury issues throughout his career too, you know?
Let me mention this before we go to another division, just because I did some Heisman show for another SEC network earlier today. They were asking me about the long odds for Heisman. 2020, Devontae Smith won, wide receiver. You know what the opening odds were to win the Heisman? 10,000 to 1. Wow. You know who are the two favorites in that? Oh, I'm glad you're sitting down. Mac Jones and Kyle Trask.
Oh my God.
So think of that when you're thinking about football today. When
but that right there, that little nugget right there, is why betting on the Heisman Trophy winner preseason is like one of the dumbest bets you could ever make in your life. Like anybody that bets on the Heisman, like I'll take all of your bets. I will book every single Heisman Trophy winner bet because oh my God, that's just stupidity. So okay, Raphael, real quick, $500 you have to bet on the NFC East. How are you sprinkling that money around?
Cowboys would be my first one just because of the price.
How much on the Cowboys? 500.
I would say 3 on the Cowboys just because of the price.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hope to see if the Eagle money price comes down. I would take Eagle money if I can get minus 140 or less. If I can get minus 140 or less, that's why I always tell people shop around, get the best price as possible. If I can get 140 or less, I think I'll put the rest of it on the Eagles. I know Jane Daniels, LSU, SEC is going to give me a middle finger. They'll win the Super Bowl, and everyone's going to replay what I just said right now and laugh at me. But I really think the sophomore slump is going to get them.
Yeah, I agree. And I think our producer, Detroit Lenny, is probably laughing back there about the show because we did Docs Daily at 1 o'clock. That's 1 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday, and 10 a.m. on Saturday is Docs Daily. But I literally said the exact same thing about the sophomore slump and about CJ Stroud and Caitlin Clark. We were talking about Caitlin Clark being hurt. I'm like, I told all of you at the beginning, anyone that was watching, I told at the beginning of the season that this is going to happen to her and Indiana, and it's been happening. So, all right, I would go if I had $500. I'd put $250 on the Commanders. I would put $220 on the Cowboys at 6-1, and then I drop the rest on the Giants just because. Just
give me your money on the Giants. Just give. Okay. I will give you 5 plus 5,000 on the Giants if you're going to.
Okay. Well, here's the thing, and this makes a perfect transition. And this is why you people come to What Are the Odds for things like this. Okay, we're going to move into the NFC South, but before we do, I got a stat for you, Raphael. Since 2002, that's when the division realignment. That's when we went to the current 8-team divisions. There has been an average of 1.3 teams going worst to first. Okay, there's been 25 instances of a team finishing in last place one season, in first place the next. The most recent was 2023 with the Houston Texans. Okay, it has happened every single year that there has been at least one worst to first in the NFL, except last year. Last year snapped a streak of over 20 years of at least one team going worst to first. So it is going to happen this year in the NFL.
I disagree. I disagree. Back-to-back years is not going to happen. We have a Giants team that some people in the front office want to tank for Manning.
Oh, I'm not saying the Giants are going to.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying. Are you going to say the Saints? Are you with 3 quarterbacks?
Okay, well, we're in the NFC South now. Tampa Bay minus 110 as the favorites and reigning division winners. Atlanta pulling in second place, although I don't know why people just keep buying into the Atlanta story like every year. They're at plus 225. Carolina plus 425. And then New Orleans coming in at plus 1,100. They were the last place team this past season in the NFC South. I don't know if you remember this, Raphael, but it was like late in the early aughts and early in the 2010s where the NFC South was kind of known as being the worst to first division, where that was a thing that happened quite a bit this year. Well, Tampa Bay has won 4 straight division titles. New Orleans did win 4 straight before that. No one in this division has ever won 5 straight division titles in the NFC South. So let's start there. Tampa Bay versus the field in the NFC South. Who would you take?
I like this Carolina team. I think they played much better in the second half. I thought the benching, I can't think of his quarterbacks, Bryce Young.
Bryce Young.
I think the benching of him early and then they brought him back. I thought he was a totally different quarterback coming back in that one. So I'm gonna say it would not shock me if the Carolina Panthers win this division. So I'll sprinkle the prices. Yeah, I saw 4-1. I think I thought it was the
425.
highest.
Yep, plus
Yeah, I think the
425. Yep.
highest I saw was plus 450. I can't remember where I saw that one, but I would sprinkle that one just because, wow, 5 times. That's hard for Tampa Bay to do, even though I'm one of the biggest Baker Mayfield fans
Sure.
out there. I love to watch him play. I love his leadership in the huddle and on the bench. So it wouldn't shock me to see 5, but if we're talking about sprinkling, I'm sprinkling the Carolina Panthers. And I'll tell you right now, and I'm going to say it multiple times, the Saints will have the worst record in football.
That's really interesting that you say that because I'm doing my preseason power rankings. And initially I had them at 32nd. I had them as the worst team in the NFL. And then I started going through the roster and looking at some stuff. I think I moved them up to 30th. I don't think that they're the worst team.
Who's your worst team?
They're the worst team right now. I think it was Cleveland. I'll check for it right now, but I feel like it was the Browns. But no, Carolina 32nd, Cleveland 31st, New Orleans.
I have them winning the division. You got them as 32nd.
Okay. Well, listen, here's the thing. Like you mentioned it, and that's what everyone's talking about with Carolina this year, right? Is like they played better at the end of the season. Okay. They're getting a lot of credit for coming close against Kansas City. They lost by 6. Philadelphia, they lost by 3. Okay. So they played the 2, but let's ignore the fact that those teams probably weren't taking Carolina seriously because they were like 2-11 at the time that they placed them. They won 2 out of their last 3 games. Yeah. They beat Arizona in overtime and they beat Atlanta in overtime. So they barely won 2 out of their last 3 games, and they did it against a bunch of loser teams. Also, they gave up the most points in NFL history. Name me anyone that they brought in to help fix that defense. They didn't. They did.
You're right, but the division stinks.
The division does stink, but Carolina has been consistently one of the worst teams in the NFL over the last 4 years. So I just don't think that they get the benefit of the doubt. Where you look at a team like New Orleans, where the reason I initially had them 32 is they have the worst quarterbacks. Like none of those quarterbacks are NFL caliber quarterbacks. Like Rattler stinks, Hainer stinks, and like I said before the draft, I might even have said it on one of these shows, I'm going to laugh at whoever takes Tyler Shaw. Like that's a joke. You don't stay in college for 7 years. Okay, 7 nondescript years. It's not even like Tyler Shaw was like, a Heisman hopeful for one of these years. Like he was a mediocre to bad quarterback for 7 years in college, and they drafted him in the 2nd round. Like anybody who thinks that guy's the answer, like that's a joke. However, I like their offensive line. Chris Olave is like 1 hit away from his career being over, but there's a world where Chris Olave, Brandon Cooks, Rashid Shaheed, Elvin Kamara, Juwan Johnson, that's not a bad crop of skill players right there, okay? Like those guys can do some things behind a pretty good offensive line, and their defense, again, is not terrible. Like
it's old. Their defense is old. They brought back Cam Jordan, who's getting a pension and his salary. No,
hey, Calais Campbell was like the big free agent pickup in Arizona. Old, we're old, Raphael. You and I are old, but
I'm not signing a contract to play anything.
Okay. The thing about it is I think Carolina and New Orleans are worth it to bring it back to the divisional odds. I think that they're worth it because, again, history says somebody's going worst to first. These odds are pretty juicy. And I think we'll both agree that Tampa Bay is kind of a soft favorite in this division. They have won 4 straight, but the problem with winning 4 straight division titles, especially in a division where no one has ever won 5 straight, as I mentioned, is that that's a lot of extra games too. Like they won a Super Bowl. They've made some runs throughout the playoffs. So the cumulative effect of some of those games on some of the veterans on Tampa Bay, I don't know. So, all right, $500. You got $500 to spend on the NFC South. How are you breaking it down?
I was going to say I put the whole 500 on Carolina, but you just poo-pooed on my Panthers. So I would say
they're not good.
I'm going to take the small. I'm going to take Tampa, even though you said no one's won 5 straight, but they get the best quarterback and they get, I think, the best offense in that division. And I'll sprinkle on Carolina.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, for me, I feel like you either have to take, like I said, Tampa Bay versus the field. You either have to bet it all on Tampa Bay, or you break it down into the other underdogs. And that's exactly what I'll do. Despite the hater over here, I'll drop 100 on New Orleans. I'll drop probably 150 on Carolina, and I'll put 250 on Atlanta. So if anybody other than Tampa Bay wins that division, then I make a little bit. Look, like I said, we're arguing about whether New Orleans is the worst team in football or the third worst team in football. So it's not like I'm trying to sell you on them being good. I'm just saying that, like, you look around on all three levels of the defense, they have potential Pro Bowlers. They do have a good crop of skill players. Kellen Moore, if he comes in and just runs the ball and grinds and stuff like that, there's a world where they could win 6 games this year, despite their terrible quarterback. So, okay, NFC North, best division in football last year by far. We have Detroit at plus 155, Green Bay at plus 250, Minnesota at plus 260, and my Chicago Bears at plus 575. Now, Detroit has won back-to-back titles. Green Bay is really the only team that's ever won 3 in a row or more in this division. Detroit won 15 games last year. They're relatively healthy favorite, but interestingly enough, one of the few divisions where the favorite isn't minus money, meaning you're still getting plus money value on Detroit to win this division. So what are we looking at here in the NFC North, Raphael?
We both got red polos on. I'm a big fan of Love. I'm going Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers. I think the Packers win this division. I think Detroit takes a small step backwards. I'm not saying their window is completely shut, but they had some really good chances to go to the ship, and they didn't make it to the ship. So I'm going to say Green Bay. I think Jordan Love is an MVP candidate. I think he's going to have a really, really big season. I like Green Bay, and I love the price of getting Green Bay to win the division. Let's say Goff gets hurt. Let's say Detroit has more injuries like we saw last year. I mean, they were devastated with injuries. So let's say that happens again. So I'm a big fan of this Green Bay Packers team.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you with Green Bay, with liking them. Definitely underachievers. Definitely had some injuries things. I think I like the odds. Now, I think Detroit is going to take a significant step back. Okay. They're not going to fall off the map this year, but I know their season win total is like 10.5. I love the under on Detroit this year. Their schedule is brutal. They had the brain drain where they lost the offensive and defensive coordinator. I just think that they lost 2 starters on that offensive line. That's been the core of this team over their resurgence the last 3 years, is the fact that they can line up and just run the ball down people's throats, just physically manhandle people at the point of attack. Well, now 2 offensive linemen from last year are now gone. They got a new center. So now they're at that position where, like, if they lose one of the other linemen, like if Taylor Decker goes down, if Penei Sewell gets hurt, okay, now you're in trouble. Now that offense starts to fall apart a little bit. So I like the fact that you're getting better than 2-1 on Green Bay and Minnesota. Minnesota was right on their heels last year at 14-3. Detroit only won that division by 1 game. And again, we both like Green Bay. The thing about Minnesota that's interesting is they're like a massive regression candidate, right? Like any of the numbers that you look at, like they beat their Pythagorean win expectation last year by 3 games, meaning they were closer to an 11-win team than they should have been for 14. Like that's a massive red flag. Their defensive yards per point. They had good injury luck, plus 12 turnovers. Like everything about Minnesota is saying they're going to take a step back, kind of like they did 2 years ago after that magical season with Kirk Cousins where they won like 10 one-score games in 2022. Here's the thing, though. They are a team that went out and made some nice free agent acquisitions that really bolstered them. Like, I'm telling you, Philadelphia might have the best starting 1 through 22. I think Minnesota might be second. Like, Minnesota's roster is freaking loaded. Of course, we don't know about the quarterback position, but I feel like their head coach gets kind of the benefit of the doubt, right? Like, you look what he's been able to do each of the past 2 years. First with Kirk Cousins, who, when you took him out of that system in Minnesota and put him in Atlanta, he turned into a pumpkin real quick. And Sam Darnold sucks. Like, I don't know why anybody thinks that guy has, like, turned his career around. That guy stinks. And they were able to coax 14 wins out of him. So why wouldn't he be able to do the same thing with J.J. McCarthy?
Yeah, if they get anything close to what Sam Darnold did last year, then they're going to be a team that I'm like, wow, I can't believe I didn't sprinkle anything on them. If I had to sprinkle, I would probably maybe sprinkle a little bit more on Chicago than I would on Minnesota, just because of the question mark for JJ. I mean, we know what we're getting with the quarterback play in Chicago. We're going to finally improve the offensive line. So we know what we're going to get out of Chicago. I don't know what I'm going to get with the quarterback that's coming off a knee injury, who's never played in the NFL. But their roster is fantastic. I mean, that's what scares me about not sprinkling and maybe sprinkle and all that. But quarterback is the biggest position in the NFL. And when you have a big question mark, I guess it doesn't matter what's around you.
Yeah, I was 100% ready to have Minnesota at the top of my fade list coming into the season. But as I look at that roster, I'm like, I'm not really in a hurry to bet against this group of guys. You mentioned the Bears getting almost 6-1, plus 575, plus 585s are out there. Again, keeping in mind that one of these last place teams are going to finish in first place. Ignore what Raphael's saying. It's going to happen. Could it be the Bears?
Yeah. It could. I mean, because if you're Caleb Boyd, you had a crappy summer of a book coming out saying that you didn't want to go to Chicago and stuff like that. So I'm sure he wants to start off hot, but he's got protection. And that's what his biggest downfall. When he was rushed, he made awful decisions, and that's what got them in trouble. I've always liked their defense, but their defense was always on the field last year. That's why I think their defense gassed out in the end of the third quarter and fourth quarter. They made some nice pickups. I think that if there's one, which I don't think so, if there's one team that in the whole NFL, and I'm not saying this, I'm a homer because I'm not a Bears fan, even though I grew up in Chicago, it's the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I mean, the Bears, just kind of a tough draw that they're in the division that they're in.
Yeah.
With 3 other legitimate Super Bowl.
Can you imagine if they were in the South? The same.
Unbelievable, right? Either one of the Souths, the AFC South or the NFC South, right? Like put them in. I think there's like 3 other divisions. Like even the AFC East. Okay, they're not Buffalo, but like the rest of those teams suck. So I would love to see them, or even the NFC East. Like put them in either of the East. They'd probably be the second best team in either one of those divisions. So, Chicago's got to prove it until I buy in. I'm high on Ben Johnson, like a lot of people are. They're moving in the right direction. I don't think that they did enough to bolster their offensive and defensive lines where they were weak last year, and that's bringing in 3 new starters. I still think they should have used their first-round draft pick on another offensive tackle because guys get hurt. You can't go into the season with 5 offensive linemen, right? Guys get hurt. Happens all the time. It's football. Like you got to have 8 good offensive linemen that you can trust and 8 good starting NFL caliber defensive linemen that you can trust. I just don't know that the Bears. I'm
glad you said that. Not to cut you off. I'm glad you said that because everyone says the quarterback's the best position to have and the most important position to have. I say no. It's the offensive line because you can have any quarterback back there, but if your offensive line is weak, it's going to get exposed. I don't care if you have Peyton Manning in your prime, Tom Brady in your prime. If you don't have an offensive line, you don't have a quarterback. I don't care who's back there.
Yeah, it's a simple game. You got to start on the offensive and defensive lines, period, end of sentence. And they've improved, but are they good enough? Okay, $500. Where are you going with this?
I'm only going to do a sprinkle of 2 teams. I'm going to sprinkle 4 on the Packers and 1 on the Bears.
Okay, I'm going with 2 teams. I'm going with Green Bay and Minnesota. Give me $250 on each one of them. Either one of them would show.
Wow, you didn't sprinkle on like not even 50 on your Bears. Your Bears not even. They got to
prove it. No, they got to prove it. They do not. The Chicago does not get the benefit of the doubt after the last 30 years. And again, vastly improved team. They might not win more games than they did last year because the schedule. Like the NFC North has to cross over with the AFC North, so Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Cleveland, and I forget who they're crossing. I think the NFC West, maybe. So it's just brutal games all over the place for the NFC North. That's why all 4 of those teams are going to win fewer games this year than they did last year. And one last thing about Jordan Love, okay? He is another sophomore slump guy. That's what happened to him last year. I know it wasn't his second year in the NFL, but it was only his second year as a starter. Like just another thing, like it's a real thing. That regression after your first year is a real thing. So, okay, last division that we're getting into here is the NFC West. I have San Francisco at plus 160, the Rams nipping at them at plus 165, Arizona plus 425, and Seattle at plus 550. The Rams were the division winner last year, and they are the only one of the 8 divisions whose division winner the previous year is not the favorite to win it this year. It is San Francisco, who, oh, by the way, Raphael, finished in last place last year. So maybe this is the obvious one where we got our worst to first team coming out of the West. And obviously the sportsbook thinks so too, because they are the favorite. Do you think that San Francisco should be the favorite? Why are they the favorite? And what do you think about, these two top teams?
They're the favorite because money comes in. They're not the favorite because of the talent. They're not the favorite because of their quarterback. They're not the favorite because anything else. They're the favorite because they put their helmet on and it has SF on it. That's the only reason why they're the favorite. They're probably one of the top 5 most popular bet team in the NFL. Year after year after year after. They were getting money when Brock Purdy was going to be the starting quarterback, and no one knew about Brock Purdy. All they knew he was Mr. Irrelevant, but money was still coming in because they have an S and an F on their helmet. I like the Rams on this one. I can't believe they made San Francisco the favorite. I want nothing to do with it. Every time I open up a link about San Francisco, someone's complaining that they want to get paid more. That's all it is, and I'm tired of it. I mean, no, I like the Rams in this one. I'll tell you right now, I'm putting all my $500 on the Rams. I don't want nothing to do with San Francisco. I want nothing to do with Arizona, and I want nothing to do with Seattle.
He is full blown on the bandwagon, and that was going to lead into my next question, but I think you answered it, is the Rams are becoming kind of a trendy Super Bowl pick out of the NFC. They're a team that's getting a lot of buzz. Those teams that get a lot of buzz in the preseason usually don't end up great. Do you look at the Rams? You obviously like them to win this division. Okay, I think part of that's a function is you just really don't like the other 3 teams. Part of it is you like the Rams. Do you see them as a realistic Super Bowl contender going into the season?
You mentioned it in the beginning of the show. The Eagles roster is just really, really, really good. If they can stay healthy, then no, I don't think they can beat a healthy Eagles team. I think the Packers and the Rams will compete for 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna add the Eagles. I think 1, 2, 3. Those 3 teams right there are gonna battle for the 3 top spots in the NFC. But I'm gonna say I like Green Bay a little bit better than I like the Rams, even though I love the Rams defense.
Okay, San Francisco, you may not like them, but again, they're another one of those teams that every single important statistical measure points to them having a bounce back season. Okay, they were in the Super Bowl just 2 years ago. Last year they went 1-6 in close games. That's a -5 in their close game record. They were -10 in turnovers, which puts them in a positive regression range. They underachieved their Pythagorean win total by 1.4 games. They had one of the worst injury lucks in the NFL, with all of those older guys getting hurt. Their offensive and defensive yards per point are in that range. And yeah, I was one of the few people that predicted San Francisco's demise last year. That was my 8-unit futures play that I released on Docs. I hit that pretty hard myself, and everything went exactly according to plan. I do think that there's a lot of bounce back potential with this team. They are going to be better. Okay, they are. Just the numbers, guys coming back healthy. They don't have the depth that they did as a Super Bowl when they were a Super Bowl contender, so I don't think that they're quite at that range. But I 100% think that they can win this division. And the Rams, on the other hand, I'm not selling them, but they're in kind of a tenuous spot with Matthew Stafford. He's another one of those guys who's getting up around 40, injury risk. And with old players, I like to say this about old players. Old players don't decline slowly and steadily. Like, they fall off a cliff. Like, when it happens for old players, especially at a position like quarterback, it usually happens really suddenly for a guy like that. And if Stafford gets hurt again, then the Rams are kind of right back where they were a couple of years ago. And this was another team. They overachieved last year by 2 wins. I'm not on the Rams bandwagon the same way that a lot of people in the media, not pointing out to you, but a lot of people, I'm hearing a lot of love from the Rams. I'm not there yet with that. Which brings us, Raphael, to the bottom 2 teams, Arizona and Seattle. Really interesting. You may not like them, but you can't admit that there isn't some intrigue with these 2 teams. Arizona, year 3 under Gannon. Could this be the year that Murray breaks out? If Marvin Harrison Jr. makes the jump, they really could be something. Their defense was really good last year. Seattle, their defense was excellent. They do bring in Sam Darnold. They made my favorite hire, other than the Bears getting Ben Johnson, for me, and probably New England getting Mike Vrabel, the best hire of the offseason was Seattle getting Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator. So Arizona, Seattle at +4-1, +5-1. Can I compel you for an upset here in this division?
Maybe Arizona. I do like all their additions with that. They played surprisingly well last year. I think they were one of my shocking teams that played last year. Their total season wins actually opened up at 8 and up to 8.5 now. So even the betting public likes them. So if I had to maybe look at something, I'd maybe look at Arizona. I'm Seattle. I just don't. They don't have anything for me to be. I can't wait to watch the Seattle team. Oh, they're on Monday Night Football. Yeah, I can't wait to watch the Seattle team. They do nothing for me.
Yeah, again, I don't like Darnold at all. I think he's a dud, but I love Kubiak. So it's really hard with this team. Like, I wanted to go hard against them one way or another. I will say over the last 30 years, since 1995, there has only been one team in the NFC West to win 3 or more straight division titles. Okay, it was Seattle from 2004 to 2007. So this has been another one of those like really parity-driven divisions, kind of like the NFC East, where usually a lot of turnovers, usually a lot of new winners. So $500, you said you're putting it all on the Rams. I'm going to take $250 a piece and go with Arizona and Seattle again. I think that San Francisco and the Rams are both really soft favorites compared to some of the other favorites that we have out there. And I think that this could be a division where we see a surprise. So, all right, that is it for our NFC divisional breakdown. As I mentioned, I hope you liked it. I hope you found it informative and found this information useful. If so, mash that like and subscribe button. We will be back next week, probably with more football. I know Raphael's not excited about that yet.
I'm not here next week.
Oh, okay. Well, I will be back.
Out of the country.
And it'll be another all football show next week. Maybe we'll dip into college and do some conference odds. But until then, carpe diem and good luck.